Marilyn Monroe was a sacrifice, and Sharon Tate's ritualistic end was a cult ritual that followed. This is the hidden truth about the Golden Age elite, the dark figures they consulted, and the unholy price paid for unchecked power. Aleister Crowley, the beast who built Hollywood's occult foundation. Before the stars made their pacts, there was the man who wrote the playbook. Aleister Crowley, the self-proclaimed Great Beast 66, was the foundation of 20th century occultism, whose influence stretched from the silent film era to the psychedelic 1970s. Though often wrongly labeled a Satanist, his religion of Thelema, based on the dictum, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," became the radical philosophical blueprint for Hollywood's hedonism. It provided a dangerous justification for the unchecked ego, the uninhibited revolution, and the pursuit of power at any cost, attracting artists and elites who craved a spirituality outside traditional morality. His image has been famously embedded in rock music history, but his real contribution to Hollywood was intellectual. His writings on magic and ritual intimacy inspired many of the figures who later practiced or were victimized by dark arts. When celebrity icons like Elvis and David Bowie studied his works, they were not reading fictional horror. They were reading the gospel of forbidden knowledge, the blueprint for a life lived without moral boundaries, guaranteeing his status as the invisible, guiding architect of Hollywood's dark side. Crowley's complex system emphasized the true self as a god, a concept that resonated deeply within the self-obsessed and ambitious culture of early Hollywood, offering a potent shortcut to mastery over fame and fortune. Rumors persist that specific producers and influential socialites from the 1920s secretly funded his esoteric research, viewing his magical practices as essential tools for predicting trends and crushing rivals. The very language and symbols Crowley championed, often disguised in art and music, became a hidden language among the elite who believed they were accessing cosmic secrets for material gain. Rudolph Valentino, the Latin lover's seance addiction. The king of silent film was not just captivated by passion on screen, but by spirits in private. Rudolph Valentino, the ultimate Latin lover, lived a life shrouded in early Hollywood mystique. But behind the scenes, he and his wife, Natasha Rambova, were outspoken, fervent believers in spiritualism. They constantly participated in seances right in their glamorous Hollywood mansions, seeking guidance, fame, and wealth from the spirit realm. They employed professional mediums and reportedly used specific antique tools, such as the silver seance trumpet, to clearly hear messages from beyond, which they believed would guarantee box office success. Valentino was convinced that he was guided by an invisible mentor, an ethereal presence that protected him and fueled his explosive fame, even leading him to publish his own book of spirit writings. This dependency on the occult was so profound that the reckless star would drive his car at dangerous speeds, convinced that his spirit guides would protect him from any accident, a fatal sense of invincibility. When Valentino tragically and suddenly passed away in 1926 at the age of 31, rumors immediately erupted that his troubled spirit was trapped, haunting various Hollywood locations, including the room where he passed. The famous curse of a customized silver ring he acquired from a mysterious fortune teller was widely blamed for his premature end, with the ring subsequently bringing misfortune to several owners who dared to wear it, solidifying the legend of a cursed star. His ghost became one of the most famous in history, suggesting his devotion to the spirit realm in life ensured his terrifying lack of rest in passing. Mae West, the blonde who consulted the forces. The queen of wit and early Hollywood scandal wasn't just writing provocative scripts. She claimed to be channeling them. Mae West, who helped define the uninhibited revolution of the 1930s, was known for her shocking, boundary-pushing material. She was reportedly a dedicated medium and regularly hosted psychic readings and seances in her apartment. Her psychic, Kenny Kingston, recounted that West would often pass her rooms saying, "Forces, forces, come to me and help me write a script." She genuinely believed that her most famous, risque dialogue was given to her directly by unseen entities, ensuring its power over the masses. She believed her powerful career-making characters were essentially spirits inhabiting her body, granting her the magnetic charisma that captivated audiences and terrified moral watchdogs. Her success, which single-handedly influenced the moral decline of traditional values and sparked the Hollywood production code, was seen by many conservatives as proof of a dark, corrupting influence on American culture, suggesting her seductive dialogue was the product of a genuine dark covenant with the unseen forces she so casually invited into her life. This consulting extended beyond scripts. West reportedly used astrology and medium advice to time her career moves and investments, guaranteeing her financial longevity and status as one of Hollywood's most enduring and protected stars. Jayne Mansfield, the blonde bombshell and the high priest. Jayne Mansfield, a platinum blonde bombshell, engineered to rival Marilyn Monroe, began a close and dangerous association with Anton LaVey, the enigmatic founder of the Church of Satan in the mid-1960s. Rumors swirled that she was a high priestess in his inner circle, participating in rituals involving black cloaks and inverted pentagrams, seeking to amplify her stardom through unconventional spiritual means. She flaunted this connection, even allegedly allowing LaVey to perform a public ritual at her lavish Hollywood pink palace, creating a chilling tableau of glamour and dark transgression. These images suggested a pact deeper than simple public relations. Sources alleged Mansfield and LaVey engaged in occult ceremonies involving blood and curses aimed at rivals. The claims peaked when LaVey reportedly placed a curse on her lawyer and lover, Sam Brody, after Brody mocked the Church of Satan. Not long after, in the summer of 1967, Mansfield and Brody were lost in a horrific motorcar accident. The tragedy, robbing the world of the talented actress at 34, became Hollywood legend. While skeptics dismiss it as coincidence, others believe it was the terrifying fulfillment of a dark pact that granted Mansfield fame, but demanded a gruesome, ritualistic payment in the end. Her unsettling story remains a perpetual whisper of the high cost of fame and the perils of dancing with the devil. Elvis Presley, the King's Esoteric Library, and the Twin Spirit. The price of fame was paid in blood and metal for Jayne Mansfield, but for Elvis Presley, the payment was demanded by a deeper, quieter obsession. Born into the church in Tupelo, the King's gospel roots forever conflicted with his scandalous public persona, creating a spiritual restlessness that fame could not fill. At the height of his career, Elvis privately stepped beyond the boundaries of traditional faith, seeking validation for his explosive talent through an array of gurus and a secret, intense study of the occult. Many saw his presence as hypnotic, almost as if he were channeling a force beyond his own talent. According to those closest to him, Elvis believed he was spiritually guided by his stillborn twin brother, Jesse Garon. This missing half became his ethereal guardian, an unseen entity he spoke to in private to protect his voice and fuel his charismatic energy. This conviction served as the scaffolding for his esoteric pursuits, leading him to amass a library of books on numerology, Hermetic philosophy, and the works of Aleister Crowley. Visitors to Graceland occasionally glimpsed these dark tomes open to rituals for communicating with the departed, suggesting a man searching for secret codes to his own destiny. The parallels between his explosive rise and his subsequent physical decline are viewed by some as the clinical evidence of a Faustian bargain. As he leaned on prescribed medication and his body withered, it appeared as though the cost of his power was being exacted in real time, turning the icon into a hollowed husk. When he passed away in 1977, conspiracy theories erupted, suggesting his fate was the final reckoning of a deal with dark forces. He had captured the spirit of a generation, but in the process, he may have lost his own soul. His search for power ended in a deeply public tragedy, leaving behind only the echo of his talent and the unanswered questions hidden in his study. If the king's twin spirit and dark library weren't unsettling enough, prepare for the tale of a cursed motor car that haunted everyone who touched it, a story of fame, speed, and immediate doom. James Dean, Little Bastard and the Devil's Ride. The king's unholy bargain may have consumed his spirit slowly, but our next star, James Dean, had his fate sealed by the most famous cursed object in Hollywood history, a silver motor car known only as Little Bastard. James Dean captured the rebellious spirit of 1950s America, becoming an icon nearly overnight, a figure synonymous with anti-establishment cool and existential angst. His on-screen roles defined the restless, misunderstood youth, but his off-screen fascination with speed, danger, and the unknown has led many to speculate that something far darker lurked beneath his cool, detached exterior. He seemed perpetually drawn to the edge of destruction, as if testing the limits of his own mortality and challenging fate itself with every fast turn he took, possessing a reckless disregard for consequence that transcended typical youthful exuberance. The most famous element of this legend is Dean's silver Porsche 550 Spider, ominously nicknamed Little Bastard. The name itself seemed an invitation to ill fortune, a direct challenge to the universe. According to persistent rumors that circulated through the Hollywood landscape, he was warned explicitly that the motor car had a malevolent aura by Alec Guinness, who told Dean he would face an end to his life within a week of driving it, a prophecy that sealed his end just 1 week later, suggesting the car was not an object of speed, but a vessel of immediate doom. Dean shrugged it off in true fashion, believing himself invincible, perhaps even tempting the dark forces he had read about, viewing the danger as part of the thrill of life itself, that a great life must be lived fast and dangerously. He reportedly commissioned a custom tartan trim for the car, oblivious or indifferent to the dark energy others sensed emanating from the machine, a machine that quickly earned a reputation for doom. Following Dean's fatal crash on September 30th, 1955, which resulted in his passing, the wrecked Spider was sold for parts. Yet, the story of Little Bastard was just beginning, transcending mere automotive history and entering the realm of the paranormal, spreading misfortune like a contagious disease. Accidents, bizarre events, and injuries trailed everyone who dared to handle the motor car's remaining components, creating a tragic cascade of misfortune that amazed police and insurance investigators. The string of misfortunes became so famous, it was dubbed the Curse of Little Bastard. One tale recounts how the heavy motor fell off a truck, breaking a mechanic's leg. In another instance, 2 motor cars carrying pieces of the wreck collided. When the car's mangled shell was eventually put on display for a road safety exhibit, it was reported to have mysteriously disappeared without a trace, feeding the sinister idea that the vehicle was cursed, or perhaps possessed by an evil force that Dean had awakened, an entity that demanded the car remain hidden. The chain of bad luck even included the temporary disappearance of a display mechanic who was found days later, disoriented and unable to explain his absence, as if the car itself was fighting to remain unseen or actively exerting its malign influence over those who approached it. Some people claimed Dean's recklessness with the forbidden arts, allegedly dabbling in seances or Ouija boards, opened a portal to malevolent influences, sealing his tragic fate. His sudden departure at the age of 24 only added fuel to such outlandish stories. In the aftermath, fans shared theories that Dean made a deal with the devil for instant, meteoric stardom, or that he was singled out by dark entities he unwittingly provoked. While many chalk it all up to a grim coincidence and youthful risk-taking meeting a tragic accident, the legend persists that James Dean's fiery passion was matched only by the sinister forces he may have courteously but dangerously entertained. His restless spirit, immortalized on screen, seems to have been too powerful to simply rest in peace, forever linked to the vehicle that became his unintended monument, a symbol of reckless youth and cursed fame that remains one of Hollywood's most chilling artifacts. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler's forbidden knowledge. Dean's fate was accidental. But for the swashbuckling Errol Flynn, the flirtation with the forbidden was a deliberate act of rebellion, a conscious pursuit of sensation beyond the limits of polite society, a refusal to accept any moral boundary. His lavish yacht parties were not merely hedonistic. They were reportedly ground zero for forbidden knowledge. Errol Flynn was the quintessential swashbuckling hero on screen. Dashing, charming, and irresistible, he embodied chivalry in films like Captain Blood. Off-screen, however, he was a notorious pleasure seeker whose extreme lifestyle gave rise to countless rumors, including whispers of involvement in esoteric circles, constantly pushing the envelope of acceptability. His reputation for excess was so pronounced that studios had teams dedicated solely to managing his constant, chaotic private life, often paying off journalists to keep the darkest secrets submerged, protecting the facade of the screen hero, who was, in reality, a danger to himself and others. Flynn's yacht parties, far from being mere celebrity gatherings, were legendary for their excess and the strange company they kept, often involving dangerous liaisons. They featured a mix of starlets, eccentric artists, and, crucially, rumored occultists and practitioners of secret arts. It is said that black candles, strange symbols, and cryptic rituals occasionally became part of the late-night festivities, performed in the intimate, secluded setting of the open ocean, far from the prying eyes of the moral watchdogs. Accounts specifically mention strange astrological readings being conducted during periods of heavy drinking, and even attempts at spirit communication in the small hours of the morning, performed as entertainment that blurred into something more serious and genuinely dangerous as the alcohol flowed. These were details that few dared to speak about publicly, fearing the powerful wrath of the studio system and the scandal they might provoke, suggesting complicity among Hollywood's elite who attended these private orgies of decadence. Stories emerged that Flynn was entranced by forbidden knowledge. Some people believed he possessed an extensive private library, covering everything from ancient philosophy and alchemy to ceremonial magic, and was drawn to secret societies that promised the ultimate thrill, tapping into otherworldly power for personal gain and hedonistic pleasure. He reportedly sought out texts that were highly obscure and historically controversial, fascinated by historical figures who had achieved greatness through questionable means, seeing them as role models for his own defiance and hunger for sensation. Ever the iconoclast, Flynn deliberately and proudly flaunted social norms, fueling the notion that he actively courted dark forces as a spiritual act of rebellion against traditional Hollywood and the moral codes of his era. He was a man who lived without boundaries, and the realm of the forbidden was simply another boundary to cross, seeking the ultimate reckless pleasure that fame could afford him, treating existence as a constant, dangerous game. Though no hard evidence exists of any genuine practice of the darker arts, Flynn's reputation as a bad boy who skirted the boundaries of propriety only fanned the flames of rumor. Even his sudden passing in 1959, at just 50 years old, has been woven into occult rumors, with some speculating he paid the final price for dabbling in malevolent energies, a life cut short by the forces he chose to entertain and exploit. His life was a constant pursuit of sensation, and the final curtain was drawn abruptly at 50, far too young for a man of his vitality. The man who sailed the high seas as a hero may have ultimately found his soul caught in the wake of the dark forces he so cavalierly sought out, leaving behind a legacy of both swashbuckling glamour and profound moral darkness. Peter Sellers, the comedian, haunted by the occult beneath the genius of his comedic timing, lay a man tormented by profound spiritual unease, and a desperate search for meaning that led him into esoteric realms. Peter Sellers, the brilliant mercurial star of the Pink Panther, and Dr. Strangelove, was infamous for his erratic personal life and his intense emotional attachment to gurus and mystical teachings. He dabbled heavily in spiritualism and the occult, consulting psychics, astrologers, and mediums on everything from movie roles to marriage decisions. This was less a search for power and more an obsessive quest for self-discovery and control over his turbulent emotions. The rumors suggest that his interest was so intense he effectively lived his life by the instructions of his spiritual guides, allowing them to dictate his career choices, a phenomenon that often led to personal and professional chaos. His emotional fragility, his frequent psychological breakdowns, and his rapid decline in health are seen by some as the consequence of opening his mind to influences he couldn't manage, leading to a profound psychological toll. He desperately sought inner peace through the mystical, only to find the forces he invited in merely amplified his anxiety and self-destructive tendencies. Sellers, the man who made the world laugh, was, in private, terrified of his own mind and the spiritual forces he believed were manipulating his every decision. Sammy Davis Jr., the Rat Pack's secret initiation. Moving from high seas decadence to the glittering glitz of Las Vegas, the Rat Pack defined cool. But behind the sparkle of the casino lights, one member allegedly walked into the deepest shadow, searching for meaning or power in unconventional places to overcome the enormous obstacles he faced. Sammy Davis Jr. was a multi-talented force of nature, a singer, dancer, and actor who dazzled audiences as a member of the Rat Pack alongside Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. His charisma was undeniable, his energy boundless, making him one of the most electric performers of the century, seemingly fueled by pure kinetic force and a restless inner drive that constantly sought new limits to test and barriers to break. Yet, behind the glitz and glamour, rumors suggest Davis ventured into a surprisingly dark corner of Hollywood's underbelly, occult practices. During the late 1960s, he was allegedly drawn into the orbit of the Church of Satan, founded by the same Anton LaVey associated with Jayne Mansfield. This connection shocked those who knew him, as Davis was often seen as the ultimate entertainer, the ultimate professional, the embodiment of American success, not a dark, revolutionary-seeking radical spiritual alternatives to his established faith. His conversion to Judaism was already a dramatic public statement, and his alleged flirtation with LaVey's philosophy suggested a spiritual quest for belonging and power that defied easy classification. Some accounts claimed Davis briefly became a member, attending private ceremonies where participants chanted incantations under the glow of black candles. Friends and colleagues reportedly shrugged it off as a phase or a quirk, noting that Davis was known for his curiosity and flair for the dramatic, a man who loved to try on different identities. But others close to him whispered of a deeper, darker experience, something that truly unnerved the usually unflappable entertainer. Tales of midnight ceremonies at secret locations, complete with robed figures and arcane symbols, began to circulate in hushed tones, suggesting a serious, if brief, commitment to the forbidden. It was widely believed that his motivation was not merely theatrical, but a sincere attempt to gain control over his career and the prejudice he faced, searching for a power that defied society's constraints and promised him true equality in a non-inclusive industry. The stories became even more tantalizing when Davis suddenly, abruptly distanced himself from LaVey and the Church of Satan. It was as if he had seen something so profoundly unsettling, so completely compelling, that he felt forced to walk away and never look back, shedding the dark influence entirely and turning back toward conventional faith with renewed intensity. He reportedly never spoke publicly about the true reasons for his immediate and final departure, deepening the mystery and the sense that he had witnessed something genuinely terrifying. He would never confirm the full extent of his involvement, leaving the terrifying ambiguity hanging over his legacy. While none of these rumors have been confirmed, the intrigue remains intense. The light he radiated on stage perhaps shielded a darkness he felt compelled to investigate, and ultimately compelled to desperately escape, suggesting he found the price of the forbidden too high for even his restless spirit. Mia Farrow, the bride of Satan and the curse of Hollywood. Mia Farrow's career was instantly and terrifyingly defined by the occult, not just in fiction, but in a real-life period that became soaked in genuine, high-profile tragedy. In 1968, Farrow starred in Roman Polanski's horror masterpiece, Rosemary's Baby, playing a woman groomed by a satanic cult to give birth to the devil's child. The film itself was reportedly plagued by dark omens and bizarre accidents. Farrow's intense performance, where her character is psychologically tormented and manipulated, was eerily mirrored in the subsequent tragic events that befell those connected to the film. She quickly became the face of Hollywood's encounter with the occult, and while her story does not involve a pact, it involves a sinister vulnerability, being selected to portray the victim of a dark rite right before those close to her were touched by real-life cult violence. The shadow of Rosemary's Baby became less a movie and more a chilling prophecy, forever linking Farrow to the moment the darkness of the counterculture violently collided with Hollywood glamour. Sharon Tate, the Hollywood sacrifice and the real-life cult. While stars like Sammy Davis Jr. invited darkness, Marilyn was a victim of a ritualistic darkness orchestrated by others. This terrifying template was brutally fulfilled by the story of Sharon Tate. The core theory is that she was not just groomed for fame, but selected for superstardom by an elite, secretive group practicing dark rites, demanding her compliance and silence. This terrifying reality found its match in the late 1960s with the Manson family. Tate, the young wife of Rosemary's Baby director Roman Polanski, was tragically lost by the Manson cult, a group whose dark, chaotic philosophy was directly influenced by the burgeoning occult counterculture. This was not a fictional plot. It was a real-life, ritualistic crime that shattered the Hollywood dream. Tate was the ultimate Hollywood offering, a beautiful victim whose passing became the definitive symbol of innocence brutally lost to the cult madness that was festering beneath the glamour of the 1960s. The gruesome nature of her end and the terrifying philosophy of her assailants sealed her legacy as the most tragic and real-life Hollywood sacrifice, a brutal testament to the destructive power of the dark forces some in the industry had so casually courted. Dennis Wilson, the Beach Boy who invited the devil. In the connection between the Hollywood occult and real-life tragedy deepened terrifyingly with the Beach Boys drummer, Dennis Wilson. Wilson, a charismatic figure in the late 60s music scene, was fascinated by the growing counterculture. He became deeply, dangerously entwined with the man who would orchestrate the Tate loss of life, Charles Manson. Wilson allowed the cult leader and his female followers to live in his luxurious Los Angeles mansion, covering thousands of dollars of the cult's expenses and even trying to get Manson a music deal. While Wilson himself did not practice Satanism, he actively enabled and financed the individual who carried out the most infamous, occult-inspired losses of life in modern history, blurring the line between rock and roll hedonism and real-life cult danger. He eventually fled his home in fear, unable to cope with the chaotic and threatening nature of the group, only for Manson's followers to leave behind a chilling warning, a large, terrifying message scrawled on the wall of his home. Wilson's association with Manson became his greatest private torment, serving as a dark warning that in the late 1960s, Hollywood's flirtation with the dark side was no longer theoretical. It was knocking on your door. Marilyn Monroe, the Hollywood sacrifice. While stars like Sammy Davis Jr. invited darkness, Marilyn was a victim of a ritualistic darkness orchestrated by others. The core theory is that she was not just groomed for fame, but selected for superstardom by an elite, secretive group practicing dark rites, demanding her compliance and silence. It was a cult, not just a clique, operating at the highest levels of power and influence, whose reach extended far beyond the studio gates. Marilyn Monroe epitomized Hollywood glamour, becoming an enduring icon of beauty and vulnerability. Yet the mysterious circumstances surrounding her life, and especially her untimely passing, have long fueled rumors of shadowy forces at play, suggesting manipulation by the most powerful figures in society, encompassing both the studios and political leaders who were afraid of what she knew and whom she might expose. While she publicly embraced a bubbly, carefree persona, some observers and conspiracy theorists assert that she was secretly embroiled in cult rituals orchestrated by powerful individuals in the entertainment industry and political arena. Her relationships with prominent, powerful figures, including President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert, only deepened the suspicions of hidden manipulations and dangerous secrets being concealed, implying her life was a pawn in a terrifying high-stakes game. The theory suggests her handlers used methods of psychological control and dark suggestion, not just standard studio manipulation, to ensure her obedience and silence, turning her fame and her relationships against her. Some claim Monroe had tried desperately to break free from these occult entanglements, or threatened to reveal them publicly, thereby sealing her fate. The rumors suggest she was not a victim of her own emotional fragility, but a victim of the dark power structure of Hollywood and Washington, targeted for her vulnerability and the sensitive information she possessed. Whispers of ritual magic, coded symbols found in her final photographs, and reports of missing pages from her personal journal have all been cited as spectral evidence of Hollywood's darkest, most carefully concealed secrets. Her life, they claim, was an ultimate offering to maintain the silence of the elite, a final, tragic loss to the sinister power structure that created her image and demanded her quiet compliance, even in her final moments. Whether it is pure speculation or a chilling possibility, the story of Marilyn Monroe as a so-called Hollywood offering remains a captivating and tragic chapter in the realm of conspiracy and the occult. She remains the Golden Age's most enduring symbol of tragic vulnerability, and her passing, more than 60 years later, still casts a long, unsettling shadow, raising questions about the true price of ultimate fame and the darkness that consumes the highest echelons of power, suggesting her story is far from over. Vincent Price, the horror king's erudite appetite. The ultimate irony, the man who embodied sophisticated horror on screen may have merely been rehearsing his real-life, private passions, a perfect convergence of art and intense personal curiosity. Vincent Price's name is synonymous with horror. His silky voice and sinister on-screen presence in classic films like House on Haunted Hill and The Pit and The Pendulum earned him a loyal cult following. Yet some fans and conspiracy theorists alike have questioned whether Price's deep intellectual fascination with the macabre was purely theatrical or something far more personal and practiced. He brought a genuine intellectual gravitas to roles that usually demanded only melodrama, making his villains feel disturbingly authentic and chillingly well-informed, suggesting a profound understanding of genuine malevolence that stemmed from personal study. Rumors suggest he was not only an avid, well-known collector of fine art and esoteric culinary recipes, but also a quiet collector of books on demonology, witchcraft, and arcane knowledge. His famously erudite nature and eloquence lend powerful credibility to claims that he was exceptionally well-versed in occult history, treating it not as entertainment, but as serious academic material, studying the dark arts like any other historical period, but perhaps with a more dangerous intensity, drawn to forbidden systems of belief and power. The scope of his knowledge was reportedly staggering, encompassing everything from Renaissance alchemy to modern spiritualism. Price occasionally lectured publicly about the cultural significance of historical witchcraft trials and other dark chapters of human belief. further sparking curiosity among those who wondered if he spoke from a place of deeper, personal involvement. He was known to reference obscure texts and historical practices, suggesting a first-hand familiarity with the material that went beyond simple historical research, almost like a practitioner discussing trade secrets. Did he, behind the closed doors of his elegant home, conduct his own secret experiments in conjuring spirits or harnessing darker energies? It was whispered that the man who loved to entertain at his table had a very different kind of appetite in his private library, seeking out the edges of accepted human knowledge and the secrets of historical evil, perhaps viewing his acting career as the safest way to explore the terrifying material he collected without actually crossing the ultimate boundary. Some anecdotal stories from cast and crew members insinuate that Price's dressing room, typically a refuge for actors, was filled with unusual curios and items of esoteric symbolism. These were often dismissed as simple props, but those who saw them up close recognized their esoteric origins, suggesting talismans or ritual objects carefully procured from around the world. While he consistently denied practicing any form of forbidden arts, his masterful portrayal of menacing characters, combined with his real-life appetite for unusual forbidden knowledge, kept the rumors alive until his final days. He presented the perfect image of the cultured gentleman, but the depth of the books on his shelf told a much darker story about his profound, lifelong curiosity with the nature of evil and the secrets of the world. Barbara Steele, the Gothic siren, and the arcane amulets. If Vincent Price was the master of sophisticated fear, the 1960s found their terrifying queen, whose on-screen presence hinted at a deeper, private practice. Barbara Steele's mesmerizing, wide-eyed look made her a staple in Gothic horror films throughout the 1960s, often portraying tormented souls, witches, or vengeful spirits. Her unique, aristocratic beauty defined a generation of atmospheric European horror, making her the muse for directors obsessed with the macabre and the supernatural, such as Mario Bava and Roger Corman, who recognized her innate aura of mystery. Yet, rumors persist that her affinity for the eerie extended far beyond the requirements of her roles. Some people claim Steele was deeply interested in real-world occult practices, frequenting gatherings where practitioners explored seances, ceremonial magic, and specific spellcasting techniques. Allegedly, she studied the historical works of Aleister Crowley and delved into European folklore about curses and shape-shifting spirits. She was drawn to the historical power and fear surrounding these subjects, seeing them as a wellspring of profound emotional energy and perhaps a tool for artistic transformation that required genuine spiritual input and involvement, using her craft as a vessel for darker forces. On set, Steele was said to have an uncanny, unsettling ability to embody her characters, slipping into trances that unnerved even seasoned directors. Her colleagues felt her intensity was not just acting but something more primal, as if she were channeling the very spirits she portrayed, lending chilling authenticity to her performances that audiences found intensely disturbing. A few crew members whispered about unusual paraphernalia in her personal effects: candles engraved with strange sigils, black-bound notebooks filled with runes and specific symbols. Some insisted that she wore protective amulets to guard against malevolent energies that she or her performances might have summoned, suggesting she believed in the power of the rituals she was rumored to attend and the risk they carried to her own soul, seeking to shield herself from the forces she consciously invited. This was not just acting. This was a personal, spiritual defense against forces she knew too well. Though she never publicly confirmed any involvement with the forbidden arts, her mysterious aura and choice of intense film projects only heightened the chatter. Even interviews where Steele discussed the psychological allure of horror were interpreted by some as cryptic nods to hidden, profound beliefs. Her mysterious aura remains a powerful magnet for fans, who suspect that the fear she projected on screen may have been an echo of the fears she held in her own life, a secret she carried with elegance and defiance throughout her career in the gothic shadows of cinema, suggesting the performance was a reflection of her reality. Christopher Lee, Dracula's Forbidden Warnings. Of all the names tied to the darker arts, perhaps none commanded more authority or embodied more chilling sophistication than Christopher Lee. He was an imposing figure both physically and in terms of his commanding presence on screen. Best known for his chilling portrayal of Count Dracula, Lee's involvement with the occult remains a topic of intense speculation, driven primarily by his own powerful and specific statements regarding the dangers of dark magic. What is known for certain is that he boasted a substantial, highly scholarly personal library on demonology, occult practices, and the supernatural. He frequently cautioned fans and interviewers about the dangers of seriously dabbling in dark magic, sparking rumors that his knowledge might have gone far beyond mere academic curiosity. Some observers suggest that Lee's interest was rooted in first-hand experiences, possibly linked to elite circles in Europe, who practiced esoteric rituals. Tales circulate that he once encountered genuine practitioners of dark magic and supposedly witnessed ceremonies invoking dark entities. Lee himself alluded to the seriousness of such rituals, stating that anyone who tried them without full understanding risked dire, terrible consequences. He was known to correct directors on the proper pronunciation of incantations or the accurate appearance of ritual symbols, confirming his formidable private expertise, a truly unsettling talent for an actor who knew the difference between historical research and genuine power. Bela Lugosi, the Count's Dark Addiction. The man who gave us the hypnotic stare of Count Dracula was himself searching for power in the spirit realm, only to find a spiral of misfortune and personal ruin. Bela Lugosi shot to phenomenal fame as the definitive Count Dracula in 1931. Some people believed the iconic role was more than just inspired acting. They believed that Lugosi himself harbored a genuine personal interest in the occult. Accounts from Hollywood insiders say he occasionally attended seances and collected grimoires on ancient magic. Speculation intensified when his personal life took a downward turn, marked by chemical dependency and profound financial woes. A few people claimed he had invoked forces he did not fully understand, leading to a relentless spiral of misfortune and ill health that he could not escape. Legends persist that he performed secret rituals in a desperate last-ditch attempt to regain his lost stardom or to maintain a mystical hold on his audiences. He felt the darkness of the roles was consuming his real life, a life which tragically became a shadow of his screen persona. Even after his passing in 1956, the public's fascination with Lugosi's potential real-life dabbling in the supernatural only grew. His burial, while reportedly wearing one of his trademark Dracula capes, became a powerful symbol of how deeply the character, and possibly the dark mystique behind it, had become tragically intertwined with his true identity. These 18 stories represent just a fraction of the strange and unsettling truths rumored to have been concealed behind Hollywood's golden facade. For every rumor that eventually came to light, countless others likely remained buried in studio archives, sealed by ironclad non-disclosure agreements, or taken to the grave by those who kept them. This silence was the bedrock upon which the industry built its carefully constructed illusions, a fortress of public relations that shielded both the stars and the system from public scrutiny, while allowing a subculture of the strange and the supernatural to flourish in the shadows. The studio heads were masters of alchemy, turning the lead of human scandal and spiritual obsession into the gold of cinematic perfection. But the cost of that transformation was often borne by the individuals themselves. The psychological toll of flirting with the forbidden was immense and multifaceted. Many of these beloved stars lived with constant, gnawing anxiety about exposure, or worse, the terrifying fulfillment of a bargain they may have unintentionally made in the pursuit of greatness. The strain of maintaining a double life, one of wholesome, manufactured perfection, and one of dark, esoteric curiosity, often became an unbearable weight. Some turned to heavy chemical dependencies to cope with the mental exhaustion of their secret fascinations, while others succumbed to the paralyzing fear of the very spiritual forces they had awakened through their rituals and research. This psychological impact was perhaps most devastating for those who had to deny their deepest intellectual curiosities or personal obsessions to fit the studio mold, leading to a profound internal conflict that played out in tragic isolation, far from the flashbulbs of the paparazzi. When we watch the classic films from Hollywood's golden age today, we are seeing more than just rehearsed lines and choreographed movements. We are witnessing the output of complex human beings who fought against shadows, both professional and personal, grappling with a level of fame that often felt like a spiritual prison. As these stories have emerged over the decades, they have forced us to reevaluate our understanding of these iconic figures, not as untouchable gods, but as vulnerable seekers. Rather than diminishing their artistry, these revelations have added a haunting, multidimensional depth to our appreciation of their achievements. They show us the true cost of their sacrifice and the complicated, often tortured humanity that breathed life into the characters they portrayed on the silver screen. Many of these stars developed incredible resilience in the face of these hidden challenges, becoming masters of compartmentalization. They channeled their complex emotions, private fears, and esoteric beliefs directly into their performances, finding in their art the only authentic expression they could safely allow themselves in a world that demanded conformity. This duality, the constant tension between the public light and the private dark, contributed to the incredible nuance of their work. It allowed them to project menace, terror, or seductive power with a frightening realism that went far beyond mere technical craft. It was a performance fueled by their deepest, most lived experiences and the hidden knowledge they gathered in the dead of night. We can now look back at the Golden Age with a more complete, albeit darker, and more nuanced understanding of the human beings behind the glossy images. The stars of Hollywood shine no less brightly for having been revealed as complex, flawed, and sometimes strangely obsessed individuals. If anything, knowing the private struggles and the dark rumors behind the glamour makes their artistic legacies even more remarkable and enduring. They survived the very forces that threatened to undo them, leaving behind a body of work that remains as captivating as the mysteries that surround their lives. Their brilliance was not a product of simple luck, but a result of navigating a treacherous landscape of fame, ambition, and the unknown. As we have uncovered these strange fascinations and the spiritual voids that fame could never fill, I hope you have gained a deeper, more empathetic appreciation for these legendary performers. Their films continue to fascinate and captivate us, not despite their personal struggles, but perhaps precisely because of how those experiences informed their art, giving their performances an edge of true, palpable darkness that still resonates across the decades. The legacy of the Golden Age is not just one of aesthetic beauty and technical innovation, but of the profound, often desperate human search for meaning and power in a world built on artifice and illusion. If these stories of glamour and the dark forces that lurked beneath the surface resonated with your love for film history and the unexplained, please help us keep this hidden past alive and thriving. Subscribe to Golden Age Files now so you never miss an installment of these profound, untold narratives that challenge the standard history books. Give this video a chance to shine a light on the secrets the studios tried so desperately to bury and leave us a comment below, sharing which legendary figure, mysterious death, or Hollywood haunting we should explore in our next investigation. Your support and engagement help us dig deeper into the forgotten archives to find the truths that were never meant to be told to the public. Until we meet again beneath the stars, thank you for sharing this journey through the complicated, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying humanity of Hollywood's most enduring icons.